Hello. I had a couple of questions this week, so I thought I'd ask ChatGPT about them. I asked ChatGPT, does autistic burnout stop you sleeping properly? And can the shock of a late diagnosis lead to autistic burnout? Because I got my late diagnosis a couple of years ago now, and my sleep has never been so bad. I have never felt so tired constantly and yet unable to sleep. So this is what ChatGPT told me. So does autistic burnout stop you sleeping properly? And the answer was very often, yes. Sleep disruption is one of the most common features of autistic burnout. And I never knew that. Here's why burnout interferes with sleep: an overloaded nervous system. So burnout pushes the brain into a chronic threat overwhelm state. So I guess that's like the fight or flight system. Your system stays activated even when you're lying in bed. So this can feel like racing thoughts, restlessness, hypervigilance, and difficulty switching off. Definitely what I experience. Sensory sensitivity increases, and burnout makes sensory thresholds lower. So small noises, textures, lights, temperature changes can keep you awake or wake you up. This is definitely what I am experiencing. Executive function drops. So when burnout hits, routines fall apart and you might go to bed late, scroll too long, forget sleep steps, or get stuck awake. I struggle to go to bed. My logic follows thusly. If I'm going to be laying in bed and I can't fall asleep until about 4 a.m, then I might as well go to bed a bit later, and then I won't be laying there as long. So for the last year or so, I've been going to bed at 1 a.m. and still not falling asleep until 4 a.m. But clearly, that's not the best routine to have. Emotional exhaustion. Burnout often brings anxiety, sadness, or irritability. I definitely have the irritability. Emotional rumination at night equals difficulty falling or staying asleep. So my brain does like to go on a journey as soon as I get in bed, where it tries to think about every single thing that's ever happened in my life. Energy isn't the same as tiredness. Autistic burnout equals total system depletion. Do you know, that statement sounds so good to me right now. I don't just feel tired. I really don't. A total system depletion. That sounds like a really great way of describing it. It says here the body can still feel wired even when exhausted. A classic tired but can't sleep pattern. I mean, I do have odd nights where I don't actually sleep at all, which is absolutely torturous. Anyway, my second question was, can the shock of a late diagnosis trigger autistic burnout? And ChatGPT said, yes, this is very common and rarely talked about. Okay, so here we go. It's saying the first thing is identity shock. Suddenly reinterpreting your whole life through an autistic lens can be overwhelming. Well, yes. I mean, I definitely did that. I am doing that still. Questions posed can be, how did nobody see this? How did I not see this? How much masking have I done? How the hell do I unmask? Who the hell am I? What does this mean for my future? How will this change my life? Will it change my life? This cognitive and emotional reprocessing can overload your system. Okay, the next thing is a masking collapse. Okay, after diagnosis, many people feel permission to stop masking. I don't know how to do that. I think I've stopped masking at home. I don't know if I mask much at home anyway, but the nervous system doesn't adapt instantly. No, I don't suppose it does. I wonder if it even can when you're so late diagnosed. I mean, years or decades of masking up to breaking point can tip you into burnout once you finally stop. Maybe that's what's happened to me. I really don't know. I find it very difficult to know what I'm feeling most of the time anyway, so yeah. Long-term overload finally catches up. A diagnosis often shines a light on how hard you've been working to cope, often unconsciously. Once you realise this, your body finally gives up the fight. Okay, interesting. Emotional processing, grief, relief, anger, confusion, validation, all at once. Emotional overload alone can be enough to trigger burnout. Yes, I suppose that's true, especially for someone that doesn't really know how to process emotions properly or understand emotions or even know what they're feeling. Yeah, okay. So you realize how many stressors were already filling up your person. And then the diagnosis adds this huge life event on top, even if it's a positive life event, because you're finally getting the answer you've been seeking. It just feels like it's the bit that tips you over the edge, doesn't it? So then it's drawn me this nice little line. It says, putting it all together, late diagnosis leads to emotional shock and cognitive overload, and mask drop leads to autistic burnout, leads to sleep disruption. This is a known pattern but rarely acknowledged by clinicians. Who are these clinicians, I wonder? So, yes, all very interesting. Thank you very much, ChatGPT, for that revelation. Anyone else experience this? Do please let me know in the comments below if you can relate to any of this. Thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.